Hello, and welcome to Message in the Middle with Marianne. We all know that life is hard, right? It's messy, it's unpredictable, but it can be wonderful all at the same time. My hope is that we can take a deep dive into self-development topics and explore life's lessons through book clubs, conversations, and interviews. And together, we can uncover the lessons that others have already learned to help us navigate this crazy, wonderful ride called life. Hello and welcome back to Message in the Middle. I'm your host, Marianne, and I'm so glad you're taking time to listen today because we're diving into something that touches almost every woman in midlife, yet somehow can feel like the most isolating experience in the world. Today, we're talking about menopause, but not in the way you might expect. We're talking about it through the lens of humor, community, and radical self-acceptance. We're exploring how one woman took her challenging life transition and used it to shine a light for thousands of others who feel lost in the hormonal haze and unspoken struggles of this stage of life. My guest is Sarah Stenton. She's been on the show before, back in May of 2024, and I'll put the link in the show notes. But for those of you that haven't been introduced to Sarah, she's a comedian, writer, and a menopause advocate who created a very popular Middle-Age Madness Facebook community. What began as a tell-all Facebook diary of her own midlife journey turned into the best-selling book, Middle-Age Madness, My Menopause Diary, and a loyal following of more than 174,000 people who look to her daily Facebook posts for their sharp wit and fearless honesty. Sarah writes, performs stand-up, and shares stories that tackle everything from brain fog to chin hairs, to mood swings and leaking bladders, with the type of humor that makes you feel seen instead of ashamed. Sarah, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Marianne. Wow, what a lovely introduction. And it is so lovely to see and speak to you again. Thank you for having me back.
I am so thrilled that you're here. And I first have to say, 174,000 followers.
I know.
To some people might look like it happened overnight. I mean, that you have substantially increased in the last couple of years. That's a big number. That's a big number for Facebook, solely Facebook.
It is a big number. It's actually, we've gained 100,000 followers since May of this year.
Wow.
Which has been incredible. And I don't know what I'm doing differently. I've got no idea. So it's crept up on me as much as everybody else. But it's phenomenal. Yeah, it's amazing. And I'm so glad that we're reaching more people because more and more ladies are, and men, lots of new men followers as well. But they're starting to understand that it's okay to feel like you're falling apart. You know, they're not going mad and they're not the only one, which is a big mantra on the page. So yeah, it's great. I'm amazed and humbled and delighted by it, I think.
I had a question to get us kicked off, but you just said something that I think we should pull out. You said, I don't even know what I'm doing, or something to that extent, right?
Yeah.
But I think that's worth pointing out to people because, and we've probably talked about it before, but often people hesitate to try to do something new or make a shift or pivot because they're not sure. They're not sure how it'll play out or all the steps or what it'll look like. And you would say to that,
just do it. My God, I know that's somebody else's slogan. If you feel driven to do something or to create something, just give it a go. Because the worst thing that can happen is that it's going to flop or fail, but that doesn't matter. At least you can say, oh, well, I tried it and it perhaps wasn't for me. It could take off overnight, or it could be like mine, a very, very slow burn. I mean, I've been running my page now. Oh God, I think I started it in 2018. I don't even know how many years that is. My maths is rubbish.
Seven?
Is it 7 years? 7 years of menopause. Oh my God. But it's organic. It's grown organically. It's a natural process. I just write what I think, and I write through life stories, things that happened to me. For example, we had an episode the other day where my husband and I were trying to get rid of some horrible green bugs that we have here in France on the balcony. And it was so funny. And I just thought, I've got to write this. I've got to put it on the page. And that particular post has gone mad. So it wasn't necessarily the menopause, but it's more the sort of interaction you have as a middle-aged married couple when you're very, very comfortable with each other. And one of you has a bowel disease that erupts at the sight of nasty French bugs landing on you. So it was just very, very funny. And it did very well. And I think in answer to the question, just try it. You know, if you've got a dream or a wish, give it a go. You're failing yourself if you don't, I think.
So for those that didn't listen to the previous episode, and I'm sure they will go back and listen to it now that we told them about it, but take us back. Let's set the stage. When you did start this, you talked about it being back in 2018. What were you going through? What caused you to start writing in Facebook and kind of putting your diary out there of what was going on and how you were feeling?
I didn't know what was happening, is the honest truth. I worked in an office with men, lovely guys. I mean, one of them was my husband, but I just felt so removed from myself. So when I was at work, I had a focus and I had jobs to do. You know, you have your inbox, don't you, when you come in, or you've got your emails to check. So I knew what I was supposed to do. If I had to go off piste, and we were real estate agents, estate agents, and it was our company, so I was one of the directors. But so if I had to go off piste, so if a customer came in and was a bit unhappy that their house hadn't sold, I had to obviously speak to them and be polite and knowledgeable and know instantly which property it was. And I just couldn't get there. I just sat there thinking, I've got no idea who you are. I know I'm supposed to know, but don't know which house you're talking to me about. So I would sort of subtly try and defer it to one of my colleagues. And then I would think afterwards, why did that happen? Why couldn't I find the words? Why wasn't my brain working properly? Or I'd feel anxious and have a bit of an anxiety spiral that I found very hard to get out of. For example, my daughters passed their driving test. They'd been really excited about doing it. I was all for it. Yeah, get your independence, go for it. And yet, the minute they got behind the wheel of the car and left the driveway, that was it. They were going to have an accident. The police were going to knock on my door. Can you come and identify your daughter's bodies? And that's all I could think. That is so unlike me. So, as well as the physical symptoms of the menopause, it was the mental ones I think I struggled with the most, because having previously been quite competent and confident and reasonably intelligent, I felt so far removed from myself, as well as the physical changes. So the obvious signs of aging, weight gain, I put on over 40 pounds, and the hot flushes, and just feeling very, very uncomfortable and very unlike me. So I started to write about it on Facebook. I did poetry first, just silly little poems. And they were quite well received just on my personal page. And it was my children that said, actually, Mum, you should start up a business page, if you like, on Facebook and put your poems out there. So I did that for a year, just silly things. And they went down really well. I can't even think of any now, but about being hairy and hot and stuff like that, and loss of sex drive. And then I started writing about it in diary form because something funny would happen to me. And I thought, well, instead of a poem, it might be quite nice to blog about that. And that took off and took hold. So, and that's what I do now predominantly. I still have some silly poems floating around in my head, but it's nicer for me now to be creative, because I've taken people on the journey, and I feel like I'm coming not out of it, because I don't think you come out of it, but I think I'm learning to live with it now. I'm on HRT. I feel a lot more balanced. Yes, I still have moments of anxiety. I still have, hot flushes, but I'm learning to cope with it and to ride the storm better. And I'm putting that back on the page. So it's no longer just about I'm falling apart. It's actually, I think I'm putting myself back together again now, which is a nice journey to take people on. And think as well, you can reach out and help other women that are struggling, because you can say, look, I've been there, I've felt like that. I know it's awful, but I promise you, you can and you will feel better. And that's such an important message to get out there, because depression and anxiety, do cause lives, unfortunately, and I think there's a stigma attached. People feel ashamed if they feel that they're not coping, especially women, because we're the copers, we're the organisers, we're the planners. And we just think that if we can't do it, that we're letting everybody down. And that's such bullshit. You know, you have to take time for yourself. You have to allow yourself this period in your life where your body is changing, your hormones are changing, everything's changing, and you've got to give yourself time to adjust and give yourself a break, actually, for, you know, for going through it. Don't beat yourself up about it. Let's talk about how we can help you and how we can ride this out until you feel that you're coping a bit better with it. So I don't know if that's the answer to your question, because I forgot what you said.
It's okay. I asked about how you started and what was going on with you. And I do think you answered that. And you touched on something that I wanted to ask you about, which is September is Suicide Prevention Month.
Is it?
And it is, at least it is here. I don't know if you guys have the same kind of...
We probably do, but to be honest, every time I open my phone, I'm just on my Facebook page. So I don't really look at much else that's going on, which is a terrible thing to admit, but it is quite time consuming. So yeah, oh well, I'm glad they were raising awareness of it. That's hugely important.
Well, and you've been pretty honest and open about the time where you felt really depressed and, you know, filled with despair. And it was sort of when you were going through this and a lot of other stuff going on with the business and changes in your life period. So I do think that's something that from watching your page, I think people appreciate, and it helps that they can relate to it.
Yeah, because it's not just... Think if you've been there in that awful dark place. I mean, in my case, I wanted to jump off a bridge. I thought it was the absolute right thing to do. I couldn't see any reason not to. It felt like I'd be putting everybody out of their misery and I wouldn't be a burden anymore. Fortunately, the river was too low, so I would have just ended up looking an absolute arse. So, and my husband and my daughter, who were very close by at the time, very quickly realised this was a serious, serious crash and got me the help that I so urgently needed, thank goodness. But some women don't have that support network, and I would like to be there for them. So if they can read on my page, you know, I people do assume things. They see me with my house in France and they think I'm, you know, a lucky bitch who's got it all handed to her on a plate. Well, no, that's totally not the case. And if they can see that there's another side, that I have fought really, really hard to be here. I'm not just talking about here physically, geographically, I'm talking about here mentally, then perhaps they'll trust me when I say to them, you will feel better. You know, you just need to reach out and ask for help. And we do that on our page. We have a thing that's grown again very organically called Help from the Hive, where somebody will message me and I will post their question on the page anonymously, and all the other ladies and men jump on and help, which is lovely. It can be anything from why is my face hairy to feel like killing myself. And there's so many people now talking about how suicidal and depressed they felt, and the shame is lifting off that, and that is such it's a relief, because nobody should feel ashamed because their hormones aren't working properly in their mind and it's causing them to have depressive episodes. You know, you don't feel ashamed if you break your leg or you break your arm. You know, that's no reason to feel ashamed, and that's a medical issue. Well, it's the same if your head's a bit broken. You know, there shouldn't be any shame or stigma attached to it. So yes, I'll talk about it until the day I'm not here anymore, to make it easier for others to come forward and say, please, I need some help.
You mentioned Help from the Hive. And as somebody that follows the page, one of the things I love the most is the sheer number of responses that we get back when you put something out there. It's really, if you read through them, I mean, by the time you're at number 7, I don't know, I picked that out of a hat, but by the time you get to number 7, you're like, okay, this is probably what I should do about this thing. But when you get to like 50,000, you're like, oh my goodness, like there must be so many people that go through this, because everybody starts chiming in about their experience. And suddenly what you've done for that person is take them out of that aloneness and take them out of that, why is this happening to me? And, you know, am I the only one? Am I going crazy? All the things. And suddenly they feel part of something bigger. That's what I see happening with the Help from the Hive. And I think that's so fabulous.
We're definitely a tribe and a sisterhood, or whatever you want to call it on there. It definitely brings out the best in humanity, I think, because you're you're helping a stranger. Nobody, you don't know that person. You don't, because there's no identifying features and there's no name. You've no idea who that is. It could be somebody who lives next door to you. It could be somebody on the other side of the world. Everybody's chipping in and helping them appreciate that they're not alone.
Yeah.
And I think it helps the helpers as well, if that makes sense, because they see somebody else asking a question that might have been bugging the hell out of them
Yeah.
and think, oh yeah, I feel like that. Or actually that's happening to me, so it's the thing I'm most proud of, I think, on the page. Forget the numbers and the followers and all the rest of it. The thing that I think epitomizes it is Help from the Hive. It's such a lovely feature. And again, that's just grown. I never thought I'd be an agony aunt or, oversee an agony aunt page at all. But it's the thing I love doing the most. Absolutely. So proud of it. And I love when we get messages back from people that we've helped saying thank you. I had one just a couple of days ago. I'd been really worried about her and she felt so bad. She hadn't left the house for 3 years. And she posted a picture of herself at the beach with her mum saying, I'm out, I'm
Huge.
loving it, great big smile on her face. And, she said, thank you, because she'd listened, she'd taken on board the advice, she'd gone to her doctor, she'd got some antidepressants and got her HRT balanced. And she's finally living life. She's stepped back into her life again, which is, you can't ask for better than that, can you? It's amazing.
It's amazing. And it's amazing if you think about the ripple effect you're having on people and the page is having on people. That's the thing. So I want to ask, so one of the things that people love the most is that you're so honest. I mean, it's hysterical, but you're honest about the crazy things that we don't usually talk about, right? Like when you first started doing that, like, what did David and the girls think? Like, what did your husband and the kids think? And were you scared? Like, did you hit send or whatever, push the enter button and then like cringe, or were you good?
I think, do you know what, I have approached this page as if I was talking to a group of friends, as if I'm relaying an anecdote to some my really good girlfriends, for example, where there's no holds barred, nothing's off limits. That's who I feel like I'm talking to when I write on the page. Yeah, I've had a few moments where I've thought, oh, I go back occasionally and read through because, if I'm going to put a book together, I have to collate some posts and I'll read that and I think, God, did I write that? Oh, but it's the truth. So it might be a bit embellished, some of it. What did David think? He's not on Facebook, so he doesn't avidly follow the page. He did for a little while, but he found it very difficult to deal with the idiots that come after me.
Yeah.
So he wasn't bothered about what I was putting on the page. He was he still is very, very supportive, but he doesn't like somebody going after me and calling me horrible names. He took it very personally and wanted to go for them. And I said, no, it's a waste of your energy. So don't do that. So that's why he came off Facebook. He never used it anyway, really. It was just so it's not something he misses. What do my children think? Well, my youngest daughter is co-admin on the page. So
she's in it.
Yeah, that says it all, really. And my eldest daughter, I'm sure would be, but Ella just jumped in and did it anyway. They're both very proud of it. My eldest daughter works with two older ladies who are about my age, and they both follow the page. So, she loves that. She'll say, oh, a customer came in and said, oh, are you Sarah's daughter from Middle Age Madness? She works in a really posh jeweler's, and she always thinks, oh no, how am I going to sell this person a nice watch or a diamond when my mum's talking about her hairy flaps on Facebook? But it breaks the ice.
Yeah.
It's one way of doing it. So yeah, I think they're equally proud and embarrassed because I'd be embarrassed if my mother was writing stuff about that, but also if she'd built it up like I've built my page up, and if she was helping ladies like I do, I'd be so proud of her. I'd literally be full to the brim with emotion, thinking that that's my mum doing that. And one of the reasons I do what I do and try and break down the barriers and the taboos is for my kids, because I don't ever want them to have to struggle and suffer like so many of us have had to, and being fobbed off and gaslighted by the medical profession. I would really love it if in 20 years' time, when they're mid-40s, the medical profession would approach them and say, much like they do now, I don't know if they do it everywhere, but in the UK, you get asked to go in and do a bowel screening, or you have your well woman check. I would love it if they got a letter or a message or whatever saying, right, your hormones are going to start changing soon. We want to talk to you about that and guide you through what we can do to help you
Mm,
as you transition into menopause. That's what I would absolutely love for the generation after us to have that system and that service in place,
yeah.
because you won't get them falling through the net then, will you?
Yeah.
That's what I'd love. So that's why I do it. And yeah, I get on my soapbox a bit talking about that. But if we can change it for the ladies that come after us, then brilliant. I'll take whatever flack comes my way. I'm more than happy, because I believe in what I'm doing and I believe in it passionately.
I do think it's changing a little bit. I mean, I see a
Mm.
lot more talk about it, a lot more, there's podcasts, there's shows, there's documentation, there's stuff. And maybe I wasn't tuned into it. I don't know. But I think if we went back 15 years or so, I don't remember seeing any of that stuff. Nobody ever talked to me for sure. So I
No.
don't think it was readily available. So I do think it's changing a little
I
bit.
think it is changing. I think my worry is that they're trying to make money out of
Well,
misery.
of course.
I went round the supermarket this morning, and there's a whole aisle dedicated to incontinence wear. Now, including specifically for menopause. Now, why don't they help us fix that? Because they can, there are creams and pessaries and things they can prescribe to fix that, rather than trying to sell us stuff that's enabling it. So that's my worry. I don't want it to be another thing that they're just making money out of, because we're so, nobody wants to walk around smelling of pee, do they? So of course we're going to wear the pads and things, aren't we? But let's see if we can do something to help prevent it in the first place,
Yeah.
would be better. So yeah, it is changing. It's changing for the definitely changing for the better. The fact that we can talk more about it and read more about it and get more information. Still think there's too much medical gaslighting going on. I still think some of the procedures that we have to endure are barbaric, especially in the UK. I don't know what it's like in the States, but some of the things we have to go through, as a UK citizen, um, literally in other countries you're knocked out, you're given anesthetic for procedures, and we're not. We're supposed to lie there and grit our teeth, and that's got to change. It's an unacceptable double standard, because I'm pretty sure if men were being poked and prodded with great big long needles, like
Yeah.
a foot long, they'd be knocked out with gas, or given an anesthetic or an epidural. They wouldn't be told, oh, you must have a low pain threshold if you can't cope with this. It's wrong. So yeah, I think there's a lot of work still to do, but it is much better for sure.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think, like anything else, there'll be an evolution. And I'm sure you're right. There will be some good and there will be some bad. But
Mm,
hopefully, at least it brings the awareness. So, like your point about the kids, they know what to look for and they know
yes.
how to weed out that stuff. So, that's good. You hit on your husband and sort of what I'll call the trolls on your Facebook
Mm,
page. So I was going to ask you about that because, it might look all wonderful from the outside. You're enjoying this, you have this huge following, it's fun, but there is that element of things that sort of people don't necessarily see the back end of or see how much, although you're pretty vocal about the trolls.
yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about the hard part. So that's one that comes to mind. I think the other one that probably comes to mind is people can be mean and ruthless. And
Oh yeah, absolutely.
you might try on an outfit and get some feedback that you weren't
I
expecting.
know.
Right. So, I mean, I see it play out for you and it's gotta be hard on the receiving end. And
Yeah.
I mean, how do you deal with some of that?
I've toughened up, I think, is the short answer. I've had to, because otherwise, if I absorbed all that negativity, it would be awful.
Yeah.
It would make me spiral and I'd go right back. You have to block it out. You have to ignore it. You can't absorb that negativity. The flip side is you get loads of positive comments, but I don't go around thinking, oh my God, I look absolutely fabulous. I look wonderful in this dress. The negative ones pierce more because I'm not somebody that would give out a barbed comment to anybody. And I don't understand that mentality. I don't get
Yeah.
what's going on in somebody's life that makes them look at a stranger on Facebook, not doing them any harm, nothing to do with them whatsoever. They can
Yeah.
scroll on. Why would they take it upon themselves to say, you look disgusting, you're fat, you're ugly? They're just some of the more polite comments I've received. I don't understand that, honestly, especially when, I sometimes look at their profile picture and I think, we all know oil painting yourself. Bloody hell. There's dozens of things I could say, but I don't. I just print their comment and put it on and do something sarky underneath. But yeah, I'd be lying if I said it doesn't hurt. It does. Nobody wants to be called names. It's like school ground stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
But I just think I've managed to accept that it's something going on in their lives. There's something lacking. A normal, decent, healthy person with a reasonably balanced, intelligent mind is not going to spend their time looking for something that offends them or upsets them on
Yeah.
Facebook and then attacking a stranger online. That's not how a reasonable, healthy, normal mind works. So there's something going on there. Either I've reminded them of something they don't like, or I've hit the nail too close to home. And, I get a lot of comments when I talk about bowel issues. I have a bowel disease. So, I do have accidents. I get a lot of comments saying, oh, you're disgusting. And I'm not disgusting. It's an illness. I can't, suck it up, buttercup. But I think, have they had something happen in their lives that's really embarrassed them and I've triggered it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just think it reflects badly on them is the answer to your question. They really shouldn't be on a platform like social media if somebody trying to dress on is going to make
Set them
them
off.
be so vile and rude and
Yeah.
nasty. So yeah, I've had to toughen up, but I've also had to sort of understand that it's a they problem, it's not a me problem.
Yes.
Definitely.
That's what I was going to pull out of what
Yeah.
you said is to make it more applicable. It's you've learned to take a different perspective. And one of my favorite sayings is, what other perspective can I have? So when you start spiraling and go into that, oh my God, I must look terrible in this. My rolls are showing, my whatever, right? The things we do. Instead, stop yourself and you say, yeah, this isn't about me.
Yeah,
It's about them.
absolutely.
So that's a huge shift.
Well, do you know what I did? I did the dress, put the dress on and got called, got lots of lovely comments and the dress I think sold out quite well. So but then I thought, and I got obviously horrible comments as well. So then I put a bikini on and I thought, yeah, see this then. If you don't like me in a dress, have a look at this, see what you want to do with that. So that's my attitude now. I'm a much more confident person. And I think that's because I've done what you've just said there. I've realized it's not me,
Yeah.
it's them. Whatever I look like, whatever I wear, they're not going to like it because they don't like anything. I can't do anything about that, really.
I was going to ask you how, I mean, I've seen it played out, but for people that haven't, your relationship with your body and your self-worth has really shifted, really shifted. Do you think that's a result of getting your hormones balanced and toughening up and taking a different perspective? Is there one thing that stands out or?
When I spoke to you last May, so my uncle had just died a couple of days before, and literally the day before, we'd been to the funeral of an auntie. And that was the third. So I went on then to have four funerals in 1 year last year. And one of them was my husband's best friend, who was 62.
Wow.
And that was the catalyst, I think. I just thought, no, I'm not going to keep losing people and sitting here feeling miserable at somebody's funeral who still had years left ahead of them. I'm going to enjoy every single moment that I'm on this planet. And when Dave, my husband's friend, died, his funeral was last September. My husband and I had a holiday booked in Mauritius for our 25th wedding anniversary. And we went last November. And by then, of course, I was supposed to be lovely and slim and beautiful. And I was nowhere near, I was the biggest I'd ever been. But I just thought, no, I'm going on this holiday. It doesn't matter what size I am. What matters is, am I smiling in the photographs? Am I putting out nice, friendly, positive vibes so we can meet new people? Am I feeling sexy and attractive so, my husband and I can have a lovely time on our second honeymoon, as it were? And that's what I did. And it suddenly didn't matter how big I was. The only reason I then decided to go and lose weight was because I knackered my knee on holiday. And the weight gain obviously wasn't good for that. So I thought, well, I've got to shift some weight. But I think it was, and it's a bit of a radical solution. And I'm not suggesting everyone goes to full funerals. But when you have that many losses in 1 year, I think your mindset does alter, and you suddenly think, no, we are only here once, and it's all too soon. It's going to be my turn, and I don't want to be known as the woman who moaned all the time, or the woman who was constantly self-critical, albeit in a humorous way. I want to be known as somebody who loved life, embraced it, and is really, truly, honestly happy with where she is and who she is. So that's what I think shifted my mind. Plus, the HRT I'd been on, was kicking in as well. And plus, I think just generally after 7 years, finally, my body was sort of accepting to live with losing some of the hormones that had evaporated. So I think it's acceptance. And that's what I called my last book. I called it Acceptance,
Yeah.
because I suddenly thought, no, I'm not going to let me ruin this lovely holiday for us, because I'm important. I deserve to be here. Doesn't matter what shape or size I am. What matters is my soul and what's inside and what I want to give out to the world.
Mm.
And when you realize that, you are fabulous, you are beautiful, you are incredible. And it is a mindset. Your mind does click into place. And
Yeah.
I think that's happening now because I'm putting that out there. I'm not saying it's all just because of me, but I think because I am talking like that a lot more on the page, loads and loads of women are saying, oh my God, I wore a bikini for the first time in 30 years. Or I get it. I feel really nice. I feel like I've stepped back into my life, and it's amazing. And I'm never, ever going to lose that. I'll tell you for nothing.
I love that. And I love the word acceptance, because when we were talking before we started recording, we were talking about we're both in this, we're at this period where we do accept ourselves as we are. And I didn't use that word when I was saying it about myself, but I think we both do this. We're always going to try to, continue to grow and continue to do better and continue to infuse our mind with new things and take care of our bodies too as best we can. But it's not this all consuming, I have to be at a certain size or I have to do this. Instead, it's just this natural part of who you are now.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good place to be in. I think it's a good place to be in, but I do think it's mind.
It is. It's a mind shift. And I hope I can help ladies get there quicker than I did. I hope I can get them from A to B without having to go swirling down into despair and depression, because that's an awful part of the journey. It's a really low point. So if I can help them get there quicker and more smoothly, then I'll be over the moon. But it is a mindset. It is just, you have to forgive yourself for not being 25 anymore, because you're allowed to age. It's a normal, natural thing, and it doesn't help. We're bombarded with images in the media of people that have had a lot of help and a lot of work done, and they look great on it, and good for them. But they haven't aged the same as most of the women that I see when I go out and about. And that's the women that I'm going to focus on, not the 1% that are in celeb land who look amazing because they've got the money to look amazing. I'm focusing on the ladies I see in the supermarket, or the ladies you might see at the school gates if you pick up children or grandchildren or whatever. Let's all remember that we're all females. Doesn't matter what shape or size we are. We're all normal, natural females. We're all allowed to age. And we don't need to be comparing ourselves to somebody who, like I say, has got the money and the means to have the best of everything if they want to have work done, because that's not going to happen to most of us. Most
Yeah.
of us are going to get pulled down and pulled out
Yeah.
as we age. And I think it's about time we gave ourselves a break for just aging and for just being normal, fabulous
Normal, fabulous.
women, because
Yeah.
we are fabulous.
You talked about looking at people at the grocery store or pickup lines or whatever. And you also do your stand-up show.
Yeah.
You're getting out there with groups of women and you're talking about all of these same themes. What are you hearing from people? What surprised you the most, the reactions you get or the feedback you get from people? Was there anything that surprised you?
I get really good feedback. I've got to be honest. It's all very positive and there's a lot of love out there and a lot of laughter. The thing I hear time again is I thought I was the only one.
Mm,
And you've just told me that, you fart after having sex or whatever. I thought it was just me. So I did take a wild punt when I put it in the show that it wasn't going to be just me, but you never know, do you? So that's nice. That it still surprises me how many women think they're the only one that these things are happening to, because it perhaps, like you said, it wasn't talked about before with the generation, our mums before.
yeah.
I think a lot of our issues are because our diet is crap. We're the first generation that's been brought up on the deep freeze, for example. So there is a lot of research being done, but more needs to be done on the correlation between gut health and menopause. So I personally think a lot of us struggle with a lot more symptoms than our mothers had because our diet has been pretty crap, pretty bad. So there's more work needs to be done on that. But it always surprises me that there's still that little bit of shame when they're not perfect or what they perceive to be perfect.
Yeah.
So when something in their body doesn't do what they want it to, because it's aging and changing,
Yeah.
there is still a stigma and there's still that shame. So yes, when I go round afterwards and have a chat with the people that have been to the show, it surprises me how many of them think they're the only ones that have gone off sex, for example, and think they're the only ones that got a vagina that's gone dry. And these are such common symptoms of the menopause. So it's good to get it out there and to get it spoken about, but it's also good to make them laugh about it, because
Yes.
then they can start having a conversation and they can go home, maybe talk to their partner and say, oh, she talked about this. Can we have a conversation about it? Or will you follow her page and read what she's written about it? And I must admit, I have noticed in the last 4 or 5 months, there's been such an increase in male followers now on the page, and they're getting it and they're understanding it. And that's brilliant.
Yeah.
They're really engaging with it as well. And again, a lot of them message privately, not pervy messages. I do get enough of those, but not that sort of message, just to say thank you. One bloke actually said, I was on the verge of leaving my wife because I thought she'd be happier if I left. And that was his perception, that she hated him, that he was doing something wrong, and all he wanted was for her to be happy. So he thought that meant he'd have to leave. And he said, I get it now. I get why she's feeling like that. And I just replied to say, look, she doesn't hate you, she hates herself.
Yeah.
That's the problem. And she's lashing out because you're the closest one. So don't leave. And, it's lovely to think that page on Facebook is helping couples stay together and navigate these difficult times in their marriage. So yeah, it's amazing. So that's what surprises me, that ladies still think they're the only ones it's happening to.
I agree with that. I think that it's the delivery of the way that you put it out there. It really is so funny and so consumable, because as a consumer of it, you get reading and you can't stop and you are hysterically laughing. But where I want to go with this is you're also thinking, oh my God, I didn't like that. I've been there. That happened to me, right? Like when you're talking, all the things you're talking about, like, having to run to the bathroom or feeling like you want sex for 5 minutes and then not feeling like it again forever if you miss those 5 minutes, whatever it is, it's all the things. And you really do get caught up in not only the hysterical part of the way you're laying it out, but it really connects with people and it really does make them feel like they've been seen and that, they're not alone.
Oh, well, thank you. That's lovely feedback. And that's, I say, that's something that's just happened organically, and I'm just thrilled to bits with it. I think when you're feeling very comfortable and confident in yourself, and you don't feel like you've got any negativity or toxicity in your life, I think you do get to a good place and you can be true to yourself and be
Yeah,
genuine. And I think that reflects in what you put out there to everybody else. So yes, I do it in a funny way. That's just the way I write. Sometimes I don't mean it to be funny,
it
but it
is.
just
It's who you
seems to
are.
develop a
Yeah.
mind of its own. But it's a really lovely way of helping women through a very difficult time, because perhaps the only slight thing they've still got that they're still clinging on to is a sense of humor. They might have lost everything else, but they can still read something and giggle and
Yeah.
laugh. And then you think, right, I can follow her because she's making me laugh. I'm not sitting here crying. And then you can read about things that other ladies are going through, and you can be part of our tribe, be part of our little sisterhood that we've got going on, which is lovely, which is it's a blessing.
I agree.
I'm very lucky.
I agree with that. You said something about, you don't feel like there's any negative energy around you. And how I read that is you have to really maintain your peace. You have to maintain your peace around you. And again, back to the sort of the negative stuff and the trolls, and you've gotten, I think, some mixed feedback on, you share now products on the page, and you've gotten some mixed feedback, but talk about the why and how you choose, because I think it's important, and you've been very open and honest with people. You do make money on some of the stuff that you share with people, but you're also vetting things and you're also choosing things. And so
Yeah.
talk about that a little bit, just to get it out there, because if anybody's, thinks about that at all.
Yeah, I did get some criticism from places that I was surprised to be criticized from, and other pages I'm talking about. And I thought, well, hang on a minute, we're all here to help and do our creative content stuff. But we also, and let's not lie about it or be ashamed about it, we also want to earn money from what we do. And my Facebook page is my job. I was going to say I'm very lucky, but I've made that luck happen. I have worked damn hard to be able to sit here and say to you that I can earn a living from doing what I absolutely love. And of course, the bigger your page gets, you get approached by various different companies who want to share that because they can see that you're getting the word out and you've got a large audience, if you like.
Yeah.
And I have turned down a lot more than I've ever accepted. So I was approached by a makeup company, a skincare company, and doing organic shampoo and organic body products. Most of it's vegan. It's all cruelty free, which is hugely, hugely important to me. I'm not going to sit here and preach and say that I'm a vegan, because I'm not. I eat meat. I'm having beef bourguignon for tea tonight. But I don't see why we have to test on animals in this day and age. Surely we've got enough products that have already been done and developed to be able to say, no, we're not doing that anymore. So that's very, very important to me. 3 of the companies are tiny, small companies just starting up, and their ethos struck a chord with me. So I've turned down bigger sums of money for bigger firms because I didn't like their ethos and they didn't fit in with what I wanted to promote on my page. I only sell, if you like, or promote what works for me. So I try it all. If it doesn't work, I don't talk about it because I'm not going to put something negative out there. If it does work, I do. And, I like to share it because I found something with one of the companies I'm affiliated with that's been amazing. My skin has never looked as good as it does now in 54 years. And I promote stuff that I use, that I believe in, that I'm passionate about, and that I think followers on my page might like. And the feedback I get from them is that, yes, they do like it. They're really glad that I've tried it and am endorsing it for them. But I'm not going to apologise, nor should I have to, for earning a living. And I think it's quite wrong for people to make me feel ashamed of it, because we all go to work, we all earn a living, well, most of us do. And just because I do it through a different channel, a different way, doesn't mean it's wrong. And as I say, I'm not going to apologize for it. The negativity I was getting when I first started, and I don't want it to turn into a shopping channel. So everything I do, you're always going to get the original content that I put out anyway, the stuff that makes people laugh on the Help from the Hive. You're always going to get that. You might just get now interspersed with, oh, well, I've just tried this shampoo and it's stopped my hair falling out. You know, something that people might be interested in. I put it down to jealousy. And I think people don't like perhaps seeing pages do well and we'll put it down to, oh, she's lucky or she's this, she's that, or the other, when actually it's sheer hard work and grind that goes on behind the scenes. So, yeah, I have had to shake off a few negative Nellies. And it's not always easy. You know, nobody wants to be criticised for how they earn a living. I don't think I'm hurting anybody. I'm not harming anybody. And it's wrong to make me feel that I should apologise for it. And I have a totally different point of view. There are pages that are going to do much, much better than me. They're going to be far bigger, far more successful, that probably earn thousands and thousands of pounds every single day. Good luck to them. Brilliant. Keep doing it. It's amazing. Fantastic. I have no issue with anyone doing better than me. I just want to do the best that I can. And I want to do it in a way that helps women, helps make this journey as easy as possible, whether that's try a lipstick, try this skin product, whatever. I think that's a good thing. I don't think it's a bad thing. And I don't understand the negativity around it, to be perfectly honest with you.
Well, I think you do it with integrity, the sharing of products. But I also think one of the reasons I wanted to ask you about it is because I think at this age, it is okay to recognize when something, whether that be a relationship or something you're doing or whatever, is draining you more than it's filling you up, or it's getting into that sort of bubble of peace. It's okay to step away from that, because I think, you know, one of the things that we have to do, we have to work at, is to keeping that peace around us, to make sure that we're not being drained by situations, people, jobs, all of it. And I think it's important to know that that's okay. It's
Absolutely.
okay to make those decisions for yourself.
Yeah, you've summed that up perfectly. You know, you people should fill you up, they shouldn't drain you. And if you feel like you're having to walk on eggshells around a friend, they're not a friend.
Yeah.
Is the simple answer to that. You know, anybody that makes you feel that you've got to make yourself smaller and quieter and less of yourself shouldn't be in your life. You know, go and give your fabulous self to somebody that deserves it. Don't waste it on people that want you to be different, because that's just not acceptable.
100%. Well, as we wrap up, because I know you have lots of stuff to do today and some family coming, and it's going to be a blast, but let me ask you to leave one parting piece of advice. What's the one message you would want to leave everyone with?
Forgive yourself for getting older. Don't chase youth, because you can't go backwards. You can only go forwards. Embrace whatever life gives you, because, and again, it sounds a bit morbid to say it, but you are only here once. And get in the photographs, smile, be part of the moment, so that your children and your grandchildren have got something to remember you by. Don't avoid being photographed because you think you're fat or too thin or whatever. Get in there and smile and be part of the moment, part of the memory, because, you know, you're loved and people want you in their lives.
I love that message. That's a really good message. Well, thank you for joining me today. Where would you like to point people? Active mostly on Facebook. I just got the eye roll, guys. You're mostly active on Facebook, but you're also doing shows. I haven't heard you talk about one lately. Is there another round coming up maybe in a few months out?
Yeah, I haven't, honestly. That's why I was rolling my eyes, because you reminded me that I need to get to grips with doing my stand-up comedy. I just did. So in Edinburgh, Scotland, we have a big festival called the Edinburgh Fringe. I just did that, and I did 3 nights and they all sold out, which was chuffed to bits with. And it made me, I was all regenerated. And I thought, yes, I need to do more. And then I've totally not done anything. So I'm hoping next year to be back out on the road. I need to do another book, so I can't even point you in the direction of a book. But if you search Sarah Stenton on Amazon, you'll find my books that I've written previously. I am on Facebook, Middle Age Madness, and I am everywhere else, but I don't do anything anywhere else. So I'm sorry, I'm a bit rubbish.
That's okay. I am too. And you're about to embark on a new part of your life, and maybe you'll get to share that with us as well in the near future. So,
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see.
Hope so.
Well, thank you for joining me today. This has been a fabulous conversation.
Thank you. My pleasure. Lovely to see you again.
Thanks so much for listening to today's episode of Message in the Middle. I hope you found something in this conversation that reminded you that you're not alone and that midlife isn't about winding down. It's about waking up. You're not done. You're just becoming. If this episode speaks to you at all, please share it with a friend who needs to hear it. And if you're enjoying the show, I'd be so grateful if you could take a moment to leave a review. It really helps other women find this community and this podcast. Until next time, take care of yourself.